really here today to talk to you guys about space and to answer any questions that you might have about anything that you've seen, either in the exhibition or here on the video that you've just seen, and to talk to you about my mission to space and what's coming up in the future. So over to you guys. Anybody got any questions for me? Start having fun. Scariest moment in space. Thankfully, there weren't too many scary moments in space. Scary moments in space are never a good thing. There are three areas, really, that astronauts focus on, which are probably the highest risk areas. One of them is launching into space. Things can go wrong. Landing, coming back down through Earth's atmosphere, is pretty demanding on a spacecraft. And the third one is a spacewalk. Going outside in the spacesuit, you certainly put yourself in a very high-risk environment. So we train really, really hard on those three areas, launch, landing, and spacewalks, to make sure that we know absolutely everything and what to do if something goes wrong. Now, for us, something went wrong on the docking. It was a relatively minor problem where the spacecraft, one of the thruster sensors failed. And so our Soyuz spacecraft, it was only 17 meters away from the space station, and it had an automatic abort. So it sent us back out into space. Yuri is our Russian commander. He was in the center seat, Yuri Malenchenko. Very, very experienced. He was on his 6th mission to space. He had to take manual control of the spacecraft, and using the 2 hand controllers, he then had to fly the spacecraft back in to manually dock it to the space station. And this was made even more difficult because of the lighting conditions. We were going at the time from daytime into night, and the sun was very, very low, and so all the sun was reflecting back off this space station straight into the periscope. He couldn't really see very well, and then another computer system on board the Soyuz failed. It's always one of those things I've learned through my experience of flying. You know, it's not just one thing that goes wrong; it's a series of things that go wrong. So that was a very, very difficult time, and that's probably the moment of greatest apprehension for me, Tim, and Yuri, was getting that docking right and making sure that we arrived safely on board the space station. Any other questions?
How long does it take you to get used to the environment?
Yes, getting used to the environment. God, I mean, actually it's remarkably quick. It was much easier getting used to microgravity and getting used to being on the space station than coming back to Earth. Coming back to Earth was really tough on the body. Going into space, immediately your body actually has a really good time. It feels very liberating. You're floating around. Your muscles aren't working, so you're very relaxed. You just, hey, this is easy, this is great. Pushing off walls and things, and you have to get used to microgravity and floating around. It probably takes about 2 weeks before you're good at moving yourself around the space station without knocking things over and bumping into stuff. So it's a bit like doing any new sport, whether it's playing a game or skiing or tennis or skateboarding, whatever. There's a learning curve there to begin with it. But in terms of how you feel, I felt a little bit rough on the first day, just because it's such a major change for your body. But I was able to go straight into a very full schedule of work. And in fact, by just day 6 on the space station, Tim and Scott Kelly were going out the door for space walks, and we went straight into it. So yes, it probably took about 2 weeks before you feel very comfortable in space. Not too far. That's a great question. I think that in terms of user perspective, it definitely does change. It's impossible to go into space and spend 6 months. You saw at the end of that video clip, looking at the planet. It's just the most incredible thing, and seeing the atmosphere, seeing the aurora, seeing all the cities by night, the weather systems, and you get an appreciation of the Earth as a whole. And very strangely, you get to feel very familiar with the Earth, which sounds weird, but there are so many places I feel like I know very well. I've never set foot in those countries or those areas, and maybe never will set foot in them. But I do feel like I know them really well. Every day I will look out and photograph them and see them. So you get the feeling that you know the Earth in terms of its geography very well. You also get to see all the geographical features of the Earth, the continents, whole weather systems, volcanic chains across Russia, for example, eastern coast of Russia. So you get to see the whole geology of the Earth, which is wonderful. So that leaves a great impression on you. And you get a great appreciation of how fragile the Earth is as well. The atmosphere is tiny, absolutely tiny. And when you see it at sunrise and sunset, this tiny band, and you think, wow, you know, that's where all the gas that keeps everything in the planet alive, it's just all trapped in that thin band. So it definitely gives you a new appreciation of planet Earth. But it wasn't from a spiritual point of view. I didn't have any sort of life-changing experience in that. Yes. That's a great thing, actually. Yes, if you want to know what it feels like, do a handstand and try eating Mars bar or something. Don't tell your parents I said that. But that's probably not a bad thing to do. In fact, maybe I should suggest that for our training team. Because it's just like that. I mean, you're floating, and so nothing settles. You eat a meal, and it doesn't go down like it goes down here on Earth. And certainly we have exercises we have to do in space. We have to go on the running machine, we have a bike machine and a weight training machine. And the running machine is the worst to go on after lunch because it's just horrendous. You know, your lunch has not gone down, and then to go running in weightlessness on Monday, it just doesn't feel pleasant at all. So it does take you a while to get used to that. I think your body does start to do a better job of digesting food the longer you're up there. You get more used to it. But certainly the advice we have is the first few meals you have, just have small amounts of food more often until you get used to digesting it up there. But it's definitely, it doesn't feel the same as when it's down here on Earth. Great question.
Do you have any bad injuries?
Thankfully not, no. Although it was funny, Tim Cobra said when he landed after the Soyuz landing in Kazakhstan, he said he spent the first 10 seconds just kind of doing this, checking that everything was all right. Because, I mean, it is the same impact you would get from a minor car crash. It really is a hard landing. You smack into the ground there. But we have seat liners that are specially molded to our body. We sit in a bath of gypsum. They actually pour the liquid gypsum around us, and then we sit there in our long johns until it sets, so that the seat is our actual perfect body shape. And that's not for comfort, that's for safety. So that when we're going through the Earth's atmosphere during that re-entry, and we're building up the deceleration, the G-loads, and Yuri had said to me and Tim, hey, when we're experiencing that re-entry and experiencing the G-loads, use that G-load to push yourself back in the seat and really tighten up the harnesses as hard as you can possibly get them, pull on all your strength, so that you can barely breathe. And that way, that's how you need to be in preparation for landing. Absolutely rock solid. And then we do a brace maneuver, so just like if you ever flown on an aircraft and they teach you that brace maneuver, we put our arms across our chest. We get all of the loose articles, our flight documents, iPad, which we have, and the Soyuz capsule as well, and anything that might fly around the cockpit, we keep it close to our chest. You make sure your tongue's not between your teeth, you close your mouth, and you brace, and then you have the impact. So it's not a trivial thing landing in a Soyuz spacecraft, but thankfully there were no injuries. And there are very rare injuries. Sometimes people get a bit of neck strain, a bit of kind of whiplash, or maybe a slight pain in the back. But thankfully, generally speaking, there are no injuries on landings.
When you came down from the Soyuz spacecraft, at first you couldn't walk. How did you recover from that?
Yes, well, the recovery is quite quick, actually, because the main problem is not strength. It's balance. That's why you have people kind of next to you, just to prevent you from stumbling and falling over. But you certainly feel strong enough to walk. And then the other thing that the medical team worry about is they worry about you passing out. And there's a couple of reasons why you might pass out, and that's because living in microgravity, the heart has a really easy time. You know, you stood right here at the moment, my heart is working quite hard, pumping the blood against gravity up to my head, and all the blood wants to be in my legs, and so it needs to pump everything around. Of course, you imagine floating around in space, the heart has such an easy time pumping blood around the body. There's no gravity to work against, so the heart muscle shrinks. And not only that, all the blood that's in your legs, it floats up. And that's not a good thing. You feel puffy-faced, and your body thinks you have too much blood volume. So it actually reduces, during your 6 month stay, you reduce your blood volume. And you do that, just by peeing. Every time you pee, you're losing a little bit of your body fluids and your blood volume. So when you come back from a 6-month mission in space, your heart's too small, your blood pressure is too low, and you haven't got enough blood in your body. So if you were to get out of the spacecraft and just jump straight up, you would probably faint and fall straight over. So you need to do that a bit carefully, which is why the seats that they put us into, they're kind of reclined, they're not sat upright, and they're reclined just so, again, to reduce the height between the heart and the head, so that it doesn't have too much hard work. But in terms of strength, leg muscles are perfectly strong enough, and you feel strong, and it's just the balance. The balance takes about 2 or 3 days before you feel confident you can walk in a straight line without wandering off course. First decided to go into space. Gosh, it was more of a progression really, because you know, when I was your age, I was in the Chichester High School Cadet Force, just like yourself. And I was in the Army Cadets, but I'd go flying with the Air Force section at the weekends, because I love flying, love being in the Army, so it's quite natural I joined the Army Air Force. It's kind of a combination of both. And I loved flying at that stage. Flying was my passion. I did follow the space program. At the time I was growing up, it was the shuttle program that really, you know, was capturing everybody's imagination, so I'd always follow the shuttle launches that were going on. But at the time, the UK, there was no obvious path for anybody in the UK to become an astronaut. And it was only much, much later in my career as a test pilot that the European Space Agency opened the doors to all its member states, regardless of whether they were actually involved in the human space program or not. So it was not really until 2008 that I even had the opportunity to be an astronaut. So it was as late as that I saw the opportunity, and thankfully, you know, I was at the right age. I was coming to the end of an 18-year career in the military. I'd been a test pilot for 5 years. I had recently had a degree in flight dynamics, so it kind of everything came together just at the perfect moment to apply to the space agency. Unwell. Yes, well, I mentioned about the first day. The first day is a little bit rough, and again, it's not. I kind of say it was maybe a little bit like seasickness, but it's not actually that bad. It's weird. You can be working perfectly normally, and then suddenly you might think, you know what? I don't feel too good. I'm just gonna, you know, stay still for a few minutes, and then it will pass, and then you go back to being completely normal. But that was really just 24 hours, and then the body is remarkable. It almost immediately shuts down the vestibular system. It says, hey, I'm getting really weird signals. The eyes are telling me one thing, but the ears are going crazy, because the fluid in the ear is all floating around and it's telling me I'm in all sorts of language. So I think the brain basically shuts off signals from the ears and just says, right, just take information from the eyes, that's it. And once your brain makes that decision, you feel absolutely great, no problems at all. Yes.
What's your favourite pastime?
My favourite pastime? Definitely taking photographs. And I think I speak not for myself, I speak for every crew member there. What was strange was whilst I was on board after the first 3 months, we had 3 new crew members arrive, and one of them was a NASA astronaut called Jeff Williams, and he was on his 3rd long duration mission to space. And the first thing he did when he got on board was go to the loo, because you've been in the Soyuz spacecraft for so long. The second thing he did was grab a camera, go to the cupola and start taking photographs. And this is somebody who's, you know, just starting they've been in space for over a year, living in space, and they're still so passionate and interested in taking photographs. And trying to kind of capture the images of our planet from space. That definitely was my favourite pastime.
What was your favourite button in space?
Favourite button? God, that's a good question. Favourite button? There's a couple of great buttons. There's some that you really shouldn't push. And I actually found one of those out in when I was training in Star City, much to the dismay of my Russian instructor. He'd given me just enough knowledge to be dangerous at this time. It was very much in the early phases of training. And there's one button in the Soyuz spacecraft that basically wipes out all your navigation data. Why it's there, I have no idea, because they really should remove it. And I was in there by myself doing a very long simulation over about 6 hours that involved the whole rendezvous and docking sequence, and we were just about to do an important engine burn to go and rendezvous with the space station. And I remember teaching me about that button. I can't remember what it does, and I pressed it. And of course, it wiped out the navigation data about 2 minutes before an engine burned, so the spacecraft had no idea where it was going. I ended up in a world of trouble. So, yeah, that's the button not to push. But no, there's a couple of buttons I love pushing. One of them was in the Japanese airlock, and I ended up doing a lot of work in the Japanese segment. They're the only segment who actually have an airlock for experiments, and we send experiments out into space via the airlock door. So it's always great when you get to open the door into outer space. I mean, so there's the open hatch button. That was a great one to push, definitely. And I think the separation button in the Soyuz spacecraft as well. You know, that blows the spacecraft into 3 pieces. So that's a pretty cool button to yes. Okay, here, I'll tell you secrets now. This all remains in the war. On spacewalks, we wear nattings. Simple as that. No. On spacewalk day, you actually spend about 12 hours in the suit. You get up at about 6:30 in the morning, and the first thing you have to do is put on your medical data. We have heart rate data that's sent by telemetry down to mission control. So we put that on, we get dressed, and then we actually get into our suit because one of the things we have to get ready for on a spacewalk, the suit is obviously pressurized. We're going into the vacuum of space, and if we didn't have a pressurized suit, we would die in 15 seconds because there is no pressure. So the pressure inside the suit keeps us alive. But if we had the same pressure that you have now around you, we've got 1 atmosphere of weight on us. If we had that much pressure in the suit, we would be like Michelin Man, we would be like this, and we wouldn't be able to physically move the suit against 1 atmosphere pressure. So inside the suit, they reduce it to about 0.4 of an atmosphere. The 0.4 of an atmosphere is enough to keep you alive, but it's pretty low pressure. You know, you're getting to the stage where anyone who's done any diving knows that the gases can be released from the body, and if you have a lot of nitrogen in your bloodstream, and at 0.4 atmosphere, the nitrogen starts to get released out of the blood, that can start causing air bubbles or nitrogen bubbles that then go into the brain and cause problems. So we have to just prepare for a spacewalk, like a diver goes in a decompression chamber if they have problems. We have to prepare for that as well. So we slowly reduce the pressure. We breathe 100% oxygen for a couple of hours to flush all the nitrogen out of our blood and soak our blood with oxygen, get rid of the nitrogen. And we do light exercises in our suit, again to help flush all the nitrogen out. And that whole process takes a long time. So that's why by the time we actually go out the hatch on spacewalk day, we've already been wearing that suit for about 5 or 6 hours. Then we have a 6-hour spacewalk ahead of us before we come back in. So you can't possibly not go to the loo in 12 hours, and we have to stay hydrated as well, hence we wear. So it's quite a difficult question to answer that because it varies so much, but specifically for the mission, it's about 2.5 years from the moment you're assigned. So I was assigned in May 2013 and then went on a 2.5-year training program for a launch in December 2015. But having said that, I've been an astronaut since 2009, so I've been training ever since then. And if I was to be assigned for a mission today, it would probably be about 1.5 years to 2 years of training that I would need. We're trying to cut that training down because it's too long, and really I think we can be launching astronauts in just 12 months in terms of what we really need to train if we just focus. So the program wants to do that as well because it's expensive sending astronauts all around the world. We have to train in Russia, in Japan, in Canada, in Germany, and in Houston. So we're trying to cut down the training and minimize it. But yeah, at the moment it stands at around 2 to 2.5 years for the mission. Yes, talking in Russian is hard work. If ever you get the chance to study a language at school, I would take it. Because learning a language at a young age is much easier on the brain. I studied French at GCSE. But I didn't really use it much after that, and so learning Russian at the grand old age of 38 was hard work. But you do get there, you know, it's just a case of applying yourself, dedicating yourself, and immersing yourself as much as possible in the language. It's very important to speak Russian because, of course, everything in the Soyuz spacecraft is in Russian. There is no English translation. All of our flight documentation, all of the instruments, control panels, and we speak to the Russian mission control all in Russian. No English spoken inside the Soyuz cockpit. So you have to be, although you don't have to speak it particularly well, you have to be able to understand everything that's going on. And you have to be able to make yourself understood in Russian. It's hard work. Who has another question? Sorry. Gosh, it's quite humbling, really, and it's something that I never considered when I joined the agency. You know, I came from a military test pilot's background, so as a military test pilot going to be an astronaut, it was very much a professional focus. It's because I saw the astronaut's job as being the pinnacle of a test pilot's career. And actually the astronaut's job ends up being so much more than test pilot. You know, it ends up being coming here and meeting children, talking to people, running a science program, learning so much more about science, again, learning about languages, working with people from all around the world. So you end up doing an awful lot more than you thought you would be. And certainly, you know, becoming a role model for so many children and so many educational programs is something that I'm hugely proud of. It is a great privileged position to be in. But yes, it's something that kind of took me by surprise. Can you see the Great Wall of China from space? Not with the naked eye, no. I tried, I couldn't. When you know where it is, you can get the camera lens, and of course we have some big 800mm lenses that we can put onto our cameras, and then of course through there you can see and take nice photographs of the Great Wall of China, just like you can the pyramids as well. But again, with the naked eye, you can see Cairo, you can see the Nile, you know the pyramids are there, but you can't pick out the pyramids. Yes, so the time zone on the space station is GMT, which is great for Europe. It was kind of a compromise between Russia and Houston, and each of them having to manage their shifts as best as possible. So the agencies all agreed that the station would run on GMT, which was, you know, it's great to just pick one time zone. It stops messing the crew around too much. And we actually got into quite a good routine. And your body clock, it does take, I mentioned about that 2-week period to kind of adjust the microgravity. Well, in that period, you're kind of adjusting your circadian rhythms as well. And it's a bit weird to be having 16 sunrises and sunsets a day. And it's strange when you're in the middle of, you know, it's maybe 11 o'clock coffee time, but it's pitch black outside and you're over China, for example. And then you're brushing your teeth at 11 o'clock at night and it's bright daylight over Europe. And it's a bit strange. The worst thing to do is to look outside the window at night in the daylight-ish before you go to sleep. That massive UV that you get from the bright sunlight, it just stops you from sleeping completely. So that's something we were always very careful about, was at night time, just making sure that we only looked out, or we only had the shutters open if it was darkness, if it was panic. But otherwise, you know, your body does get into a pretty good rhythm with some GMT. Yes.
How fast is the internet in space?
How fast is the internet? It's painfully slow. You won't have any idea what dial-up is like. But yes, it's. I mean, if you're expecting broadband, then you'll be bitterly disappointed. It was enough to kind of open up your browser and then pop back a couple of minutes, and it's loaded up the page. And then 2 minutes later, you might have another page. So it's very, very slow. It's improving all the time, but of course, the internet is purely there for astronauts' use, for social reasons. So it's the lowest of the low priority. In terms of the data, the bandwidth, all the bandwidth from the space station is being used for telemetry, for controlling the space station as a priority, and secondary is the scientific experiments. So at night time, when the science experiments drop off a bit, they might give us a bit more bandwidth to use on the internet, so from the speed up. But generally Do you know, we kind of lead a normal as life as possible, and I must admit in that respect, being based out in Houston makes it very easy because there are so many other astronauts there, and it's just becomes a normal job. So they don't see really the sort of lifestyle I would have if I was back here. They don't see the whole PR side of it, and that's something we try to keep. We try to keep a very sort of normal life. But they obviously have embraced this mission. They came to Kazakhstan and watched the launch. They loved all of that aspect. But my eldest son said to me just before this trip, actually on Tuesday, he said, "Daddy, why do you have to keep speaking to everybody about space?" I said, "Well, I'm an astronaut, and that's what I have to do." He said, "Oh, I thought you just did paperwork." Not every day is as good as it could be. Any other questions? I was never brave enough to have Brussels sprouts in space. But there are foods that don't taste very good in space. It's difficult to know why. Generally speaking, space food isn't that good because they take a lot of the salt out of it. Salt's not good for us on board the space station. Salt, it makes our bones lose density faster. So they reduce the salt so that our bones stay in a better shape, but that means that the space food is very bland. Astronauts try and bypass that problem by going spicy. So we have Tabasco sauce up there, and we'll just put hot sauce on. So you end up eating foods that go well with hot sauce to make up for the fact that they haven't got salt in them. There are some foods that are better than others.
So we're going to have the last two questions.
Okay.
Okay, so last two questions is... Have you ever tried leaving for a year
Have I done it by mistake? You know, it's funny, and I've heard those stories and about astronauts dropping things. And I can understand it with something like, because you do get so used to just leaving things and letting go of things in space. But I was almost the opposite with anything heavy. Everything feels so heavy that you end up tending to grip it even tighter because you can't believe it weighs so much. One of the first things that we had to do, Tim and I, when we landed, was a sort of motor skills test, testing our coordination. And it was all iPad based. And somebody handed us the iPads, and both of us took them like this and just kind of went, oh, their iPads weighed so much. And we'd been holding iPads up there for 6 months, but you just get used to it, and then go over and play with them, floating with them, sticking them to the wall. And to actually kind of feel the weight of this thing again, wow. So if anything, you end up gripping on things even more tightly. Right, last question. Yes? The funniest moment. I'm trying to think of the funniest moment that I can tell you. Because there were a few funny moments. Well, there was one moment with Scott Kelly, who had been up there for, he did the year in space. And when we arrived on board the space station, he'd already been up there 8 or 9 months. And Scott is just he's the most brilliant guy to fly with. He was a fantastic commander of the space station. And of course, by the time we got up there, he had the space station running absolutely perfectly. He'd been there for so long. But he was at the stage where he was also interested in having some fun, because of course, it's been your home and everything. And he had his brother fly a gorilla suit up to him. And he hadn't told anybody about it. His brother used to be a NASA astronaut as well, so I think his brother had managed to kind of bypass the system somewhat to get this gorilla suit up in space that nobody really knew about. And he told me, and he said, Tim, I've got this gorilla suit. And I thought he was joking at the time. Don't be ridiculous, but you haven't got a gorilla suit in space. He said, no, I haven't. I've got this gorilla suit, and what I want to do is I want to hide in Tim Coker's sleeping quarter, and then I want to burst out and scare him in this gorilla suit. So what I need you to do is to go and tell Tim that he needs to go and make a call to mission control, and the only place we can make the calls from is in our sleeping quarter, and I'll be in there and this will work perfectly. So he got dressed up in his gorilla suit and hid in Tim Cobra's sleeping quarter. And I went to Tim, hey Tim, Mission Control, they need you to give him a call. And of course he went and opened up his crew quarter door and Scott burst out. Which was pretty amusing. I actually filmed that, it was quite funny. One of the funniest moments I can tell you about.
I think that was probably the best question. Just before Tim, massive round of applause, Councillor Elizabeth Hamilton, Chair of Chichester District Council, would like to say a few words, followed by the Mayor of